Hello and welcome to another episode, another live chat of Royal Reviewer. Let me just adjust this camera to make sure that you can see me properly. Hello and welcome. I do hope that you have had a chance to watch The Trooping the Colour. The BBC did actually broadcast it in the end. Right, I can't get this camera quite right. There we go. Right, I think that's okay. So the BBC did broadcast it. I have just finished watching it here in the UK. It was broadcast at 10:15 a.m. And the whole thing kind of lasted over an hour. But the actual ceremony itself was a lot shorter. There was lots of talking about, how it was being arranged and lots of the setting up. So I've made 2 pages of notes in my book, which of course I want to talk about. So if you haven't seen it already and you're watching on catch up, do of course go and watch it, and then obviously come back and listen to this full review. As always, this is a live chat, so I am going to go and find the live stream, and I will be talking to you guys. I will be trying to read as many comments and answer as many questions as you have. But I do have, like I say, 2 pages to kind of get through. Leanne says it was nicely done. I really enjoyed it. I did too, but I'll give you my full opinion at the end. Right, so Trooping the Colour 2020. Obviously, it is a personal tribute, and it does celebrate the Queen's official birthday in July. Of course, the Queen's real birthday is back in April. She is 94 years old, but it was decided, for many generations ago that, there should be an official birthday. So the monarch usually has 2 birthdays, and of course in July, that is when the weather is so much nicer here in the UK. So that is why we have an official birthday in July. Usually it's normally held in London, and the principal venue for that is Horse Guards Parade, where the trooping normally takes place. We usually have a balcony flyover. It is of course where members of the royal family gather. It is very much a family gathering. We did not have that this year, sadly. Prince Charles is actually the colonel of the Welsh Guards, and it was the Welsh Guards trooping their colour. It was the 1st Battalion of the Welsh Guards. So Prince Charles was not able to be here. Like I say, he is the Colonel-in-Chief of the Welsh Guards. No other family member was present. So I'm going to work through my notes. It was very, very different. I was listening to the commentary, and a very interesting fact came up. So, the Trooping the Colour has not been held at Windsor Castle since 1895, and that was it wasn't actually a Trooping the Colour. I do believe it was for Queen Victoria's 76th birthday in 1895, and unlike our Queen, who is 94, Queen Victoria actually attended in a carriage. I think there are some old footage of Queen Victoria at events in a carriage. So she was kind of driven through and kind of inspected attended those types of ceremonies in an open carriage. If you're wondering, I am actually wearing a brooch today to symbolise Wales. It is of course the Welsh dragon. So I'm wearing that today. Yes, I love to see Her Majesty smiling as well. I think she thoroughly enjoyed this Trooping the Colour. Of course, it was scaled back. Of course, it was very, very different to what we are used to. And like I said, it's not been in a different place. It's not been held at Windsor Castle since 1895. So this was something truly spectacular. And I was really, really pleased that the BBC, word drafted in to still televise it, to still make it public. And of course, it is the first time that the Queen has been seen actually, physically in public. We've had photographs, we've had two televised messages, but it was the first time she has been seen televised in public, if you can call it public, of course, because Windsor Castle is, of course, the Queen's private residence, and of course the eldest lived castle, I think, in the world. So it was really, really nice to see her, and I think for the Queen it must have been something different, because she was smiling and kind of chatting, to to people around her, to her equerry on the way out, which I'll get to in a moment. So, of course, strict social distancing was foremost in all of this. The whole kind of service had to be reduced, stripped back, and reconfigured so that it could meet social distancing. I've written down that the countermarch was actually twice the width of what it normally is. Normally, they would stand shoulder to shoulder, but the distancing has been 2 metres. So they actually marched twice the width, and I think when you watched it on the TV, you don't get quite, I don't think, the concept of the scale. The quadrangle of Windsor Castle is huge, so to be able to march twice the width was quite remarkable and still maintain the social distancing. Of course, before the Queen came out, before the guards actually marched into the quadrangle, there was an inspection, and I've written down cameras because I wanted to know, sometimes it kind of panned out and you could see the cameras set up. So the BBC had positioned some on the ground, and there were some up high in the battlements, so that every angle was covered, and I really did appreciate that. Also, I've written down spectators. Now, as I said, I think it is the oldest inhabited castle in the world, and you could see some of the inhabitants actually looking out of their windows. So these, of course, are staff and their families. So we know that lots of staff have been not let go, but they have returned to their regular homes. But there has been a key number of staff that are still retained at Windsor Castle, and of course they have grace and favour homes in the castle. They have apartments or little kind of townhouses within the Windsor Castle complex, and you could see some of them kind of with their windows flung open, having a good old look, and quite frankly I don't blame them. I would be doing exactly the same thing. And it did add a little bit, I think, to the atmosphere. So just in case you were wondering who those people were, they are obviously, staff and their families. I think it focused on kind of one lady and then what appeared to be 2 of her children. So it just goes to show that it really is an inhabited castle, not just members of the royal family, but staff as well. So what I've got written down next is it kept cutting to kind of excerpts of where they were talking to majors and generals and that kind of thing, talking about how COVID-19 has impacted the army and the household division in general, because obviously it is a tribute from the household division, who then obviously choose certain battalions and different elements within it to present their colour. So having told kind of the story of COVID-19 and how the army has been drafted in to help the national effort, they were retrained as testers to help they were tested themselves, and then they were retrained as testers. They told how also they were drafted in to help set up new NHS Nightingale Hospital facilities. They said that the practice of social distancing meant they have had to adapt, retrain, and fully prepare for what was to come. So, like I've said, usually we see the whole royal family gathering. We did not get to see that this time. Charles, Colonel of the Welsh Guards, was not able to be there. He is still up in Birkhall in Scotland with the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla. So it was just the Queen. Now, I've got written down later, but I'll talk about it now. When the scenes did cut to the quadrangle, we saw the canopy where the Queen was to sit, and it was a white canopy. It had 2 kind of like potted large pots, appeared to be painted in cream. There were 2 kind of like standard what appeared to be some kind of like laurel or bay leaf or something, or privet trees shaped in balls. There were lots of flowers, and there was a single chair that very, very much looked like a throne type chair, and there was only one. So immediately I knew, just because there was one chair, that the Duke of Edinburgh was not going to actually physically attend. And there was lots of speculation as to would he attend or not, but no, as soon as I saw the one chair, I was like, no, he will be watching, and in fact the commentator did say, he does have a keen eye. He will be watching, and it's actually one, since his retirement, it's the only one he will have actually witnessed almost physically, because normally he would be at Wood Farm back in Norfolk on the Queen's Sandringham estate, and he would probably be watching it on TV. And he does have a critical eye. He knows how this ceremony is supposed to go, and I'm sure he will have been immensely curious to have known how this panned out, and he always gives his opinion. The Queen also is obviously a major connoisseur of Trooping the Colours, but the look on her face all the way through, it looked like she thoroughly enjoyed it, and thoroughly enjoyed something different. Right, let's return to my notes. So, the colour party then obviously marched forward, marched on towards the round tower and the quadrangle. Now, I've written down lawn because wasn't the lawn in the quadrangle immaculate? It had that lovely kind of like checkerboard effect, where you kind of mow one way and then you mow the other in these kind of really big, wide, it must have been a big, massive ride-on mower, of course, to tackle something of that size. But it kind of gives this lovely kind of checkerboard type effect. And the lawn looked really immaculately manicured. It was really, really, really lovely. So I've got written down, the ensign was actually to carry the flag, which is the colour that they actually troop, for the whole ceremony. That doesn't normally happen. That was one change brought in by social distancing. So usually, towards the later part of the stages, he would hand it over and it would be trooped in front of the Queen. But the ensign for this trooping was Billy Richardson, and he actually got to hold it for the whole ceremony. So that was definitely a change. Now, the next note I've got written down is the middle ward shop, and I'm sure you could see the different signage written on the castle. Now, of course, it is the oldest inhabited castle. It is a royal castle, but it's also open to the public. Not now, not at the moment, but usually when the Queen, is not there, it is open to the public. Even when she is there, sometimes it's open as well. So it is a proper visitor attraction, and there of course are shops. And it just made me think, oh my goodness, I really want to visit Windsor Castle. It's been on my bucket list for a very, 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 very long time. And I've got written down the Middle Ward shop. I want to visit the Middle Ward shop. And there was a nice little wooden bench that looked really, really inviting that I would love to visit. Of course, they spoke about Windsor being the natural choice for the Queen to stay at during lockdown, and it is believed that it is the Queen's longest continual stay of her reign. Now, she was brought up there during the war in childhood. She had many of her lessons there, so you could argue that it's not quite the longest time that she's been at Windsor Castle, but it is the longest continual stay since she was Queen, so of her reign. And yeah, a fortified castle is most definitely, I think, the natural choice to spend a prolonged period of time. Nothing's going to get you, I don't think, in Windsor Castle. So this particular 2015, this particular colour was presented in 2015 to the Welsh Guards by the Queen, and it has embroidered on it Wales Forever, but obviously not in English. So I couldn't quite translate it, but it translates as Wales Forever. The Duke of Edinburgh is also still Ranger of the Great Park, and we did see a lovely snapshot of the Long Walk, which is indeed very, very long. That's another thing that I really want to do when I visit Windsor. I want to walk the Long Walk. So the Duke of Edinburgh, although retired from public duties, is still the Ranger of Windsor Castle and the Great Park. It spoke also about how the royal family has adapted during COVID-19 with all of the video messaging. Oh, we have a new channel member. Hello and welcome to Telford. You are a new channel member. Hello. Yeah, so the royal family has adapted the video messaging. You know, Charles being titled the King of Instagram. The Queen obviously attending video conferencing. The monarchy has not been diminished during COVID-19. Unlike Andrew Morton, who said the Queen's reign is effectively over. Was he not watching, obviously, what we've just watched? Does it look like the Queen's reign is effectively over? The royal family is always inventive, and they will always find new ways of doing things and meeting the challenges presented to them. So I'm not going to talk about Andrew Morton and his treasonous comments anymore. I would send him to the tower for what he said. Anyway, so then obviously after a while, after hearing some of the beautiful ceremonial music and seeing the troop up towards the quadrangle, it was time at 11 a.m. for the Queen to appear from the sovereign's entrance. And it looked to me like she was wearing teal. Now, usually the announcers would normally talk a little bit about the outfit, and they didn't this time. So I don't know whether they got a briefing. Angela Kelly, the Queen's dressmaker and jewellery curator, did speak in her book about that press briefings are given to the media ahead of engagement so that they know what the Queen is wearing. Usually that describes the colour, who designed the outfit, but at the making of this video, we have no actual confirmation on that. So the outfit is either going to be an Angela Kelly original design or a Stuart Parvin original design, and I couldn't decide which one I thought it looked like most. So yeah, it's either going to be Stuart Parvin or Angela Kelly. So she was wearing, you know, an overcoat in the beautiful, magnificent teal with a matching hat. And she had a matching day dress underneath that appeared to be floral, that kind of, where the overcoat kind of picked up the elements of the teal in it. Now, she was also wearing jewellery. She had single pearl earrings and a beautiful 3-strand pearl necklace. And the Queen does usually wear pearls for day wear. So it was very, very much more of a, you know, dress down, I suppose, type event, although definitely not dressed down in terms of standards. The Queen looked absolutely magnificent, hair immaculate, makeup immaculate. The outfit, whoever designed it, was absolutely immaculate. Now, the brooch that she was wearing was actually the Welsh Guards leek brooch. Again, the commentators did not mention any of this information. It's only because I know about the jewellery that I can tell you that it was the Welsh Guards leek brooch. So some of you might have thought it looked a bit like a tree or a branch or a plant, but it was a leek. It was the Welsh Guards leek brooch, and the Queen has worn it on numerous occasions. Right, moving on. The spin wheel, which is the most complex manoeuvre. Usually, you know, it kind of goes round 180 degrees. They had to observe strict social distancing in that. So it was really, really clever, I think, how it was done, about how these traditions were adapted and changed to take into account social distancing. Yes, her outfit was beautiful. And Leanne, I have just spoken about her diamond brooch. It was the Welsh Guards leek brooch. So yeah, social distancing was the core of all of this, and it's remarkable how they managed to pull it off. Then we had the lone drummer who broke away. I've got written down the Queen looked incredible because she absolutely did. And again, the ensign at that point would usually swap over the colour, but they carried on. Billy Richardson carried on carrying the ensign, trooping the colour for the remainder of the whole event. Then the anthem was sung again, and that signalled that it was time to start winding back the service. and they actually marched past the Queen. And I was wondering if they were going to march past the Queen. Usually they do. It's so that the Queen can inspect the guards, and it's usually the single point in the ceremony where they can actually make, if they're lucky, a real connection with the Queen, because they get so close that they can actually look into the Queen's eyes, and sometimes they might be able to capture a little bit of that magic spark, that magic twinkle from the Queen's eye. And she is, she's always critical. She is looking. She is a stickler for detail. And after the Trooping the Colour, she does do a bit of a debrief, and she does talk about, all the things that she saw. But from the look on her face, I think she thoroughly enjoyed this Trooping the Colour. So they did kind of stay back. They didn't march, so close to her, but she could see, and she could inspect, and they could, more importantly, see her. This trooping your colour is a huge honour. And, if this hadn't gone ahead, it would have been really, really sad. And it's just remarkable that at least, something has been made of this. At least it wasn't completely cancelled. Stripped back, yes. But did that detract from it? No, I don't think it did. I actually really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually think it felt more personal. It would have been lovely to have seen more members of the royal family. But it did feel a little bit stripped back, but it felt more personal, more intimate, and I quite liked it. I didn't feel disappointed. The only thing I would like to have seen was maybe a fly past. Not a huge one, maybe just the red arrows who stream the red, white and blue behind them in their smoke trails. I would have loved to have seen a little flyby. I don't know why they couldn't, because, for example, the red arrows, I think is it a single person in each plane? So I think they could have done it. But anyway, who knows? I'm not a pilot. There may be reasons why they couldn't do a fly past. But a fly past would have just finished it off and made it perfect. But no, I mean, if ever they had to do a Trooping the Colour at Windsor Castle again, I wouldn't be disappointed. So I invite you to tell me, did you like it? Did you enjoy it? What did you think of it? Did you think it was missing anything? But yeah, now, I would have loved to have seen more of the family, but I understand why that couldn't happen. I would have loved to have seen a fly past. I think that would have been really, really lovely. But yeah, Lyle says, true, glad it wasn't cancelled. Yeah, I am so glad that was not cancelled. It is really important that we try to maintain our traditions, and we where possible, where it's safe to do so, and where things can be adapted. Life goes on, and I think it was a really important ceremony to have. Elaine says, yes, one person in each aircraft. So I personally would have liked to have seen a flyover. The red arrows doesn't have to be the 7, 8, 9, 10 different aircraft going over. I would have just liked to have seen, I think, the red arrows zip over Windsor Castle, and that would have finished it. For me, that would have been the only thing I think I would note that I felt lacked a little bit. But other than that, I was really happy with the music. I was really happy with the trooping. I was really happy with all of the marches. I was happy with what the Queen was wearing. The only two things, it's just a shame that there weren't more family members. And I would have liked a flyover of some description. That's the only thing that I'm kind of missing. We did also get to see the Queen's equerry, who is also captain of the Coldstream's Guards, and the Queen personally appointed him in 2017, and his name is Nana, do excuse my pronunciation, but it's Nana Kofi Tumasi Ankara, and I think I got that right. And he was personally appointed by the Queen in 2017 to be her equerry, but obviously as captain also of the Coldstream Guards, he was obviously there. And you saw him dressed up at the end in his finery, and he has a really, really close relationship with the Queen. He is one of those trusted people that has been retained at Windsor Castle to help personally serve Her Majesty. and you could see them having a really little nice verbal exchange. So yes, he is one of the trusted members of the Queen's core team that has been retained at Windsor Castle. Laura, Trooping the Colour, was streamed live by the BBC. I did actually put a link to it in the community section of my channel, so do go and check that out. It was really, really amazing. Yes, she did like the ceremony. I think the Queen thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would love to know what the Duke of Edinburgh thought about it. I really would. I bet he gave his full and very honest opinion. But no, I personally couldn't fault the ceremony. I just think it lacked a flyover. That's my only constructive criticism. But hopefully things will be back to normal next year. But if they're not, if for any reason they're not, and they have to repeat what they've done this year, we don't know. I'm hoping things will be back to normal. If not, then I would like to add a request. I'd like to put in my request right now for a flyover. But other than that, I was absolutely, completely, 100% satisfied with what we got. And in fact, that we got to have anything at all was just completely remarkable. And all the hard work and dedication of everyone that put their efforts into getting that out there should be applauded. So thank you so much to everybody who made this happen, because it might not have. So at least we got what we got. And what we got was good, I might like to add. Right, I'm going to go now. I hope you all have a really, really amazing Saturday and celebrate the Queen's official birthday in any way in which, of course, you see fit. So, glasses off, I've finished reading my notes. So if you've enjoyed this video, this recap, this review, please give this video a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. Also, please do remember to subscribe to the channel. Consider becoming a channel member. Just hit the join button. And I'm also on Patreon as well if you want to become a Royal Reviewer Patreon. So, oh yeah, and subscribe to the channel. We are now 100,000 strong. So, from me in Shropshire, mwah, to you all, and goodbye.